Alright, Disney Plus has arrived, and with it, The Mandalorian, the first ever Star Wars TV show. And with decades of hope and expectations resting on its shoulders, Star Wars fans have one question: does it stink? We'll answer that question and more today as we review the first chapter of The Mandalorian on Geek Dad Life. This is not only the first day of Disney Plus, the first episode of The Mandalorian, but it's also the first time we reviewed a TV show on Geek Dad Life. And to introduce how we're going to break down TV shows on this channel, I'm going to introduce a new segment called Fave Five. It's where we're going to break down 5 of my favorite moments, scenes, things that happened in an episode, and it'll either be the things that made or broke the episode in terms of if I liked it or didn't like it. So without any further ado, let's have our Fave Five. Number 1, the opening sequence with Pedro Pascal and Horatio Sanz as the Mandalorian's bounty was a great opening sequence. I think you had action. It set the tone for what the character of the Mandalorian is going to be like, as well as having some comedy, as well as answering questions like, how do they go to the bathroom in space? And also having some great callbacks to The Empire Strikes Back with the carbonite freezing that he had there. So it had action, comedy, and I think as the episode went on, it kind of echoed all of those elements that we had in that opening sequence. So when you're talking about a pilot for a TV show, the first chapter in some type of story, you want those first 10 minutes to really set the tone, the stage, introduce your main character, and I think it did all that. And, you know, even though I watched this at 6 a.m. this morning, it had me hooked from the very beginning. So, definitely earning a spot here on my Fave 5, the opening sequence to The Mandalorian. Number 2, the origins of the First Order. So this is set after the events of Return of the Jedi, after the Empire has fallen. So what I think is something that's really cool about this series is it is exploring this uncharted space, much like the Clone Wars was for us, you know, in the previous decade or so, expanding this timeline that was probably much shorter than we're going to be able to expand on here in The Mandalorian. I think it's just, it offers so much space to tell a story that's outside of the Skywalker saga, while filling in details that we don't have since we've been back in this universe. In it, we have Werner Herzog's character, who has an Empire symbol, plus we have some, like, kind of really grungy-looking stormtroopers, and he even mentions how things are in such disorder after the fall of the Empire. So I think we're definitely seeing what is the very beginnings of the First Order, which is something that I think we were all curious about when The Force Awakens dropped. So this being the first episode, quickly showing how this fits into the entire Star Wars universe and the Star Wars timeline, I really did enjoy this scene in the introduction of the client that's looking and setting this bounty for our Mandalorian. Number 3, IG-11. So, Star Wars fans, Empire Strikes Back, IG-88. It was a classic toy. I have it right there, if you can see that. And it was just a very interesting character I think we're all curious about. And the animated series have shown more of that over time. But this is the first time we really got to see an IG bounty hunter droid in action, and it did not disappoint in 2 ways. One, actually, it being an effective, you know, shooter, or at least killer, but also kind of being a very humorous droid. I think there's a lot of questions around, like, how would that function, and I love the comedy interplay between the Mandalorian and IG-11, played by Taika Waititi. So even in that short amount of time, I really enjoyed their chemistry together, even though it was a human and a robot. And I was kind of bummed. I get why he killed him in the end. He had to. I was kind of bummed, though, that that might be all we have of IG-11. But, you know, it's a droid. It doesn't necessarily... Maybe he can come back, even though it looked like his brains were... Robot brains were blown out. So, we'll see. But overall, a well-earned spot here on my Fave 5. IG-11, played by Taika Waititi. It was an awesome job. Number 4, The Mandalorian's backstory. So one thing I was curious about, I say it's spoiler-free on this show, was, are we going to actually get into who this person is, and is it just going to be somebody wearing the Mandalorian armor, or is he actually going to be tied into the culture and the greater mythology of the Mandalorians? And I'm really glad that it actually is somebody that is a Mandalorian that follows that belief structure and that culture. And we're also getting a backstory. So when he got that Beskar and he had that new shoulder pad wielded for him, we had flashbacks of something that happened to him in his past when he was a child. His parents were obviously trying to save him. While it didn't unveil a lot, it did show us that there is a backstory here that I assume we're going to get over a period of time, whether that's over this season or over the course of the entire series. This character has a backstory. He has a past. It seems tragic. It seems to drive what he is and what he does as a character. And for somebody that loves when people layer in backstory into a TV show, I'm really excited to see how that one plays out. And the Mandalorians have such a rich history in the broader Star Wars universe. There is so much there to tap into that the games, books, cartoon series has. And the fact that we're getting this on a live action scale and making it feel as though, this is part of a movie. There's just so much source material to tap into here that even though we're just one episode in, there's just so many places it could go by actually tying this character into the greater Mandalore culture and mythology. And number 5, Mando's target, the person he's going after the whole time, is a baby Yoda species. And I say Yoda species because Yoda's kind has never been unveiled. It's something that George Lucas was very adamant about. In a universe in which every single character you even see for a second has a backstory and, a 10-page Wikipedia entry, Yoda's species has never actually gotten any history or context. And the only species of his kind that we have seen have been Jedi. In the movies, I think it's just been Yaddle and Yoda. I think there's been maybe 5 other same kind as Yoda in there, but it's so fascinating that this is the character that they choose, and it opens so many angles and possibilities for the story, because are they going to keep Yoda's species a mystery, which I think would be cool, because I think it just adds to where is this going to go? We know they're generally force sensitive and they live a long time, and it makes sense why whatever this rising First Order would want to get rid of a force sensitive Yoda species baby. But all in all, it didn't expect that at all in terms of the target. But once I saw it, I was like, totally made sense. Also super cute. I think it was a twist. It opens up so many possibilities, so many theories about how and where this thing could go. And the fact that he saved this baby Yoda species from being killed by IG-11 also gives a little more layers to the Mandalorian and kind of what he's going at, because, for a long time, the Mandalorians and the Jedi, fought against each other. So it's curious to me that he would save Yoda species, which is so entwined with the Force and with the Jedi Order. That to me tells me there's a connection there that we don't know yet. And I will be very curious to see how that one plays out. Alright, those are my Fave 5, and now it's time for my final thoughts. I love this episode. I think it hit every note that it needed to hit to kind of make us believe that this show is going to be awesome, and we want to tune in every single week. In the post-original trilogy world, the things I think fans have enjoyed the most, like Rogue One and Clone Wars, has kind of been trying to get into stories that aren't the main timeline stories. And I think this one has the potential to be a classic in the Star Wars canon. It's only one episode in now, so there's a lot more to see here, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. But overall, really enjoyed episode 1. It has me very excited for what's to come on The Mandalorian. Alright, that'll do it for this episode of Geek Dad Life. If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe. I'm going to put a subscribe button up here to the channel, because we're covering the entire season of The Mandalorian, every single episode. I'm going to try to get up the day that it drops. It'll probably be later in the day on those days. It's dropping on Fridays, so that's when you expect to see these episodes. So subscribe and hit that bell button so that you're notified when the latest episode of Geek Dad Life drops. You can check out some other episodes related to The Mandalorian that I've done on this channel. I did a toy hunt for Triple Force Friday where I did find 2 Mandalorian figures. The regular Black Series 6-inch figure, which is right here, and the carbonized edition in the wild. So definitely check that out. Put a link here or here. As well as check out my review of the Star Wars Atari arcade game from Arcade 1UP. If you're a Star Wars fan, this is going to be a really hot Christmas item. It was a lot of fun to put together, and it's been a lot of fun to play myself and with the boys. So I think check that out if you're curious about the Atari 1UP Star Wars game. Alright, that'll do it for this week's episode. We'll see you all next time. Hasta luego, and goodbye.